Murphy Austin Adams Schoenfeld LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road, Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.
Up next on Rob at Home, Sacramento steps it up. Inside the region's biggest day of giving yet, with Linda Cutler of the Sacramento Region Community Foundation.
We have so many donors doing, affordable donations in order to help their neighbors, and maybe themselves too, but their neighbors. They're doing what they can. I don't think I have ever felt as heartwarmed as I did on May 7th when that ticker stopped at midnight, and we just shook our head and said, this region, when things are bad, this region really rises.
And Blake Young joins us coming up from the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services on sharing food and love.
I can almost not speak because it means so much to me, but the number one position doesn't mean really anything to me. You said it best. The number of donations, the people that felt compelled or that our mission really touched them is what I really look at. There's so many people in the community that supported us. And like you said, the majority of donations, and we never think a donation is small because for every dollar you can donate, we can produce 5 meals.
Rob at Home starts right now.
And now, Rob on the Road, exploring Northern California.
There are so many exciting topics to talk about with the big day of giving and some interesting points that you will want to hear. Linda Cutler is the CEO of the Sacramento Region Community Foundation, and Linda joins us live. Good to see you, Linda.
Good to see you too.
And it's great to have you with us. Linda, I want to start off with the record number, the record of all the years Sacramento Region has done this.
Yes, this year was a remarkable year. We raised over nearly $12 million for the Big Day of Giving for 615 nonprofits. The prior record had been the year before at 8.4 million. So it was a huge increase. In addition to the dollars, though, which I think is clearly important, particularly in this time we're in, the number of donations and the number of donors increased by 40%.
Wow.
Yeah, and on both of those metrics. And, in one way, that's really what the Big Day of Giving is all about, is trying to awaken philanthropy, individual philanthropy here in this region. And philanthropy doesn't mean you have to be, a huge, philanthropist. Philanthropy is doing what you can do to support the nonprofit sector, whether it's $15 or $15,000.
Very good point. A very good point. And I want to drive that point home, because I know that when people hear the word philanthropy, many people think you have to be rich to do that.
Right.
Not the case.
Not the case, not the case at all. About 10 years ago, there was a study that the foundation and others did that really highlighted the fact that the Sacramento region was not as generous as other like-sized regions. And that wasn't a criticism. The reality is we don't have a ton of Fortune 500 companies here. We, we have some wonderfully generous, families and so forth. But when you think about cities like Seattle and others, where there's just, a tremendous amount of wealth. So, and we didn't want to sit back and say, well, poor us. We sat back and said, how do we work in this region to elevate philanthropy? And that's where the Big Day of Giving was really born, where it could be accessible to everybody. Now, the minimum contribution on May 7th was $15. And I have to tell you that 56% of the donations that made up that a remarkable tally were between $15 and $50.
That is fantastic. And I also want to say, Linda, that this time that we're in really, in my opinion, shows how important our nonprofits are. Oh. Times like this are the greatest equalizer of humanity, because we realize how, and this is how nonprofits live. We live this way all the time because we serve and I don't say this in a judgmental way for anyone who just realizes it during this type of period, but it is the greatest equalizer to realize how we each one have to reach one. And it puts, you can't turn a blind eye during a time like this.
Nope.
It puts all of our issues in the spotlight.
You know, I think that is such a good point, Rob. I think one of the reasons that this day was so successful, even though people were, you know, are struggling more than they have certainly since we started this program, is that it was so abrupt. And you know, we saw, you know, arts organizations canceling their entire season. We saw programs that were critical to the elderly and to children and the disabled just stop. And we saw, of course, schools had to close. There, you know, the amount of food insecure just skyrocketed. You can't hide from that. And there was nothing gradual about it. It was off a cliff. And I believe that, as horrible as that was, there's a silver lining in the sense that regardless of who we are, all of us rely on, depend, and look forward to the services that nonprofits provide in this region. And they basically were stopped. So I think it inspired everybody to understand that nonprofits really are an essential service. And, you know, very often we take those kinds of things for granted. And when they stop so abruptly, you really got to sit back and think, how do we function without these kinds of services? And I think people just came to the table and said, I want you all to survive.
So many of these services that are in the top tier money recipients of the big day of giving are direct services. You know, you're talking about adoption and foster families and feeding the hungry and the homeless.
Yep.
We were lucky with PBS KVIE to be able to pivot some of our shows, including this one right now, to make it responsive daily and weekly, particularly weekly. And I just think that it is so important to have the services that can pivot and provide.
Yep.
I'm so interested in what we're seeing happen. And I don't mean in a good way, because it's heartbreaking. The health disparities that we're seeing and the organizations that are really suffering in specific communities. Did you see an increase in giving to any of the organizations that directly serve the underserved?
Absolutely. When you look at the top 10, 8 of the top 10 nonprofits raising the most money were related to safety net services. And that's not always been the case. Many years we've had arts organizations do very well. We've had environmental organizations do very well. And they did well this year, but boy, we saw like the food, you know, we saw food banks, the YOLO Food Bank, the Sacramento Food Bank, Salvation Army, the SPCA. I think it's going to be safe to say that when all the numbers are crunched, that the social service sector really, really rose to the top this year.
And I know you hear feedback from everybody. Did you hear feedback that has stuck with you, that will be one of those things that you remember forever?
I think it's the food. You know, we hear about just the explosion of the food insecure, and just the visual of lines literally, you know, backing up and people in their cars having to get food, and they probably, you know, many of them a week ago were working.
It's shocking.
And so in talking to the food providers, I think that just generically is what continues to really resonate with me. Because I can't even imagine not being able to feed my children.
Did you ever think that what you were doing would go directly to people who we're working one week and hungry the next.
It's a sad statement, but it's so true. And, we've always known that, so many of the homeless or so many of the food insecure are, if you say one paycheck away from, not being able to sustain, particularly with rents the way they are, and, all of the issues we see and hear. But boy, did that, you couldn't hide from that this year. You couldn't, nobody's got their head under a bushel right now saying we don't have a housing problem, or we don't have a food problem, or we don't have an education problem, or, if just looking at how COVID is, hitting different communities differently, all of this is coming to light in a way that nobody can ignore it.
Exactly. Or that no one can deny that we don't have a problem with dealing with mental health, that we're dealing with homelessness, helping our homeless, helping our communities that are underserved and generationally have been underserved. And I mean medically and with food and with services, it's all across the board. And this period has brought what many had seen to a spotlight. And I hate to say that it took this. I really do.
Oh, you're right though. I mean, that when you think about the determinants of health, and that's not a topic that people sit around and chat about in those terms, but it's food, it's housing security, it's mental and physical well-being, it's access to food, as I said, it's access to education. All of that just got blown up.
And safety net, I love what you said, safety net, and that like 8 of the 10 of the top were safety net organizations. They
were. We had one arts organization and the Crocker, who always does very well, and Placer Land Trust, who again just is a juggernaut on Big Day of Giving. They do beautifully, and they are both in the top 10. But among, they're smattered among 8 social service safety net organizations, and that is a different sort of distribution of big winners.
That hit you, didn't it, Linda? I can see that it really
did.
Got you.
It really did. And again, because we have so many donors doing, affordable donations in order to help their neighbors, and maybe themselves too, but their neighbors. They're doing what they can. I don't think I have ever felt as heartwarmed as I did on May 7th when that ticker stopped at midnight, and we just shook our head and said, this region, when things are bad, this region really rises. And it certainly did on May 7th. And we've already set the date for the next Big Day of Giving. It's May 6th, 2021.
Linda, I have to tell you something. Since all this started, I have been so desperate to hug someone.
Me too.
And for the first time, I feel hugged.
Yay! Well, good.
And I say that hopefully for others who are watching, to let them know this community is reaching out and hugging you. And the Big Day of Giving is an active show of that hug. It
is. That's a great way to put it. I'm with you, Rob. I'm a hugger, and this has been killing me.
We can't, because it's for safety reasons. We have a valid reason that we cannot.
Absolutely, we do. But I love this virtual hug.
This Big Day of Giving recap, knowing that is a hug from our community.
Yep.
Linda, thank you. I adore you. You're a great human being, and I just take my hat to you.
Well, I adore you too.
I'll see you later, okay, my friend?
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Blake Young is CEO of the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services and joins us now on Rob at Home. Blake, good to see you.
Good to see you, Rob.
You took the #1 spot on Sacramento Region Big Day of Giving for 2020. That is huge. It's the first time you've had the #1 spot. And I say that is huge because I love what it says. And that is that people understand right now how much food is needed and food insecurity, meaning just not enough food for people. And they want to make sure, even with small donations, that they're doing their part. The number of donations you had was through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you, and I can almost not speak because it means so much to me. But the number one position doesn't mean really anything to me. You said it best. The number of donations, the people that felt compelled, or that our mission really touched them, is what I really look at. There's so many people in the community that supported us, and like you said, the majority of donations, and we never think a donation is small. Because for every dollar you can donate, we can produce 5 meals. So, I mean, you give us $5, we can produce 25 meals.
Blake, before COVID, before the coronavirus, you said just now that there were areas that were not quite getting everything they need because of the large amount of population we have that is struggling with food. Then you add this on, and it's like you've got a piece of Swiss cheese and there's holes everywhere of need.
Good analogy.
How do you begin to identify those when they happened on a dime? They happened within a 1-week period.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, if we're specifically talking about COVID, what happened is in our network of 220 partners, the majority of agencies are volunteer-led, and they're operated by senior citizens. God bless them. And so all of us wanted our senior citizens, and I mean they're the backbone of our organization, to stay home. We didn't want to compromise their health. So at the agency level as well, so many agencies had to close the doors because of that. So we went from 220 agencies, within 2 weeks, we had 80 agencies. So we had to first evaluate where are their gaps. So looking at, the county map, that's our territory, and looking at where agencies have closed, and really tried to help, what I would say, identify the agencies with the greatest ability to grow their capacity. And that's where we started first. And then we were able to increase the amount of resources we were getting for them. Their lines were growing at an unbelievable rate. And I think it's really important to note that during COVID, the thing that struck us the most is the amount of brand new people that had never reached out to a food program before. And I know that because, and we'll talk in a minute about our mega distributions, I saw firsthand of people coming up to us, thanking us, saying, my God, I feel embarrassed. I feel terrible that I've had to do this. And we're like, don't feel terrible. This might be a short term, it might be a midterm situation for you. And we were always, we want to serve you with dignity and don't feel bad. And take the assistance right now. And heck, when you're back on your feet, give back.
But tell us about the mega distributions. That in and of itself sounds like something that has exploded. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think it's because we want to be, we want to have strong sanitization efforts. So we call them touchless. So the mega distributions are both walk up because we want to honor the people that don't have transportation and people in cars. We have one at Christian Brothers High School for the South and one in Encina High School in the North. And right now, every Tuesday and Thursday. And we're seeing about 4,000 people in 2 hours. So the purpose of those is just to offer some relief to the agencies in the county that we may be able to control their numbers a little bit by people coming to these mega distributions, because most of our agencies are overwhelmed right now. They're overwhelmed with people. So, and it's a moving target. So as we continue, we've already, and we'll talk about this, we've already pivoted off COVID-19 because we already know that regardless if we opened up today, there are going to be people in need for my opinion, for the next year. You can quote me on that. Yeah. And our organization it's about sustainability now. Can we sustain this pace? And it's very concerning to me because right now we have the food volume, but 3 months from now at this pace, is going to be just absolutely incredible. So we're mindful about our resources.
And I hear you loud and clear with taking it week by week, but I do have to ask, can you handle that in 3 months? And if you can't right now, what can be done to help get you there?
Well, I think I don't believe there's an upside to COVID-19, but if there was one, it would be that our community, who actually talks about being the farm to fork capital of the world, has really seen firsthand that a pandemic like this, what is the first thing that people are in need of? It's food. It's a basic need. And we see that most people in our communities are marginally employed. They don't have a savings account, and food is not cheap. And so, for us, it's about the collective. It's about, look.
Oh, I love that, the collective. Everything I do, I think about the collective.
Yeah, us too. And so thank you. I do too. And the thing is that the other thing we think about is, and let's be honest for a minute, the more nourished a community is, the more productive they are. The less crime there is, the more beautiful the city is, the more smiling faces we see. And so I think this pandemic has really risen food insecurity and food insecurity's profile, where people are like, my God, this is a real serious issue. It's a little bit different than needing to replace your clutch on your car, even though that's important as well. This is such a basic need. And we know that our children are suffering from hunger issues as well. These are the future leaders of our country. So this has elevated the status of importance right now. And, the big day of giving, so thankful to the Regional Community Foundation. I truly am. But this is, people right now are thinking, wow, this is such a basic need that good folks in our community can't even handle. Let's elevate this thing. And I think that's really what happened.
I also think it's a good time to put out that nudge of strength to someone who is in that boat, who is struggling right now with the kids at home, or even with just themselves. Where are they going to get food from right now? There is nothing to be ashamed of. You are not alone. And the longer that you are stuck trying to figure this out, the worse it's going to get. But if you say, I need help, the better it's going to get. It's going to get so much better.
Sorry, that's a key point, and we're trying to express that as much as possible.
And you do a good job of that.
Well, thanks. I mean, it's probably the number one. That's part of serving people with dignity, but also just caring for your own community and your own. I mean, everybody's human here, and we're in the human business, and love and kindness go a long way. And right now, people need that. And even people that aren't reaching out to a food program, they have other stresses. This pandemic has caused stresses that we've never had before. So, if I could give one message today, it wouldn't even be about the food bank or the food. It would be about just think about loving and showing kindness to people, regardless of who they are, just simply because you have no idea what they're dealing with in their own space. And I'm telling you, people with means and without means are mega stressed right now.
And so I say back to everybody watching, if this happens and this does go longer, how do we want to have spent this time? And this time matters. This is the time we're alive right now. We're not on hold till this is over. We are living in the now. And the only way to get through this, in my opinion, is to be able to view through the lens of love, so that we know we can say our litmus test was love and action. And you can still be in action even in a pandemic, when you have to be socially distanced and precautioned, which is so necessary. You can still serve.
No, you can. And it showed with the big day of giving. It showed people do care. And gosh, what they raised, almost $12 million.
$12 million. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is absolutely just incredible. And it's again, a testament to the community and the people that care about the community. So, we're one of 615 charities. So there's just a ton of good work being done out there. we're just, you know, again, we're blessed and grateful to all the people that support us and support the other charities, because if you look statistically, the nonprofit world, you could almost single-handedly say is why we have a wonderful community. I mean, from the arts to the animals to the humans, you know, to mental health. There is so much wonderful work going on, and it shows me again that, you know, Sacramentans or our region, if you will, really stepped up and helped folks, and that really makes me feel good.
Yep, because nonprofits are all about serving, and serving
right.
is really the way to make a community a great place when you serve something better than yourself, higher than outside of this, you know.
Well, it's a good leadership quality as well.
Yes, it is, and we need to see a lot of serving.
You bet.
So thank you, Blake. It is so good to see
Rob.
you. Blake Young with the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Murphy Austin Adams Schoenfeld LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road, Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.